The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus said to his disciples, "As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy might be in you and your joy might be complete. This is my commandment. Love one another as I love you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I no longer call you slaves, because a slave does not know what his master is doing. I have called you friends, because I have told you everything I have heard from my Father. It was not you who chose me, but I who chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit that will remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. This I command you, love one another." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
It's a verse that it's a passage, it's a gospel passage that could go without commentary. If we had ears to hear it, right? If we could hear and heed the call of Christ here, because it's so simple. Yeah, it's so simple, but it's also dangerous, right? Difficult, costly, demands everything. Love one another. And there are any number of things that are going on in this Mass that we celebrate as St. Matthias. We see reference, even in the collect, even in the opening prayer, to the elect, those chosen, and even being allotted, casting lots to see who will fill the space, the apostolic ministry left open by Judas. And what we see there is this. This is the challenge for us, I think, when we look at the concept of the elect. You know what I mean by the elect? It's almost like this. I mean, in kind of contemporary culture, it's like those who are saved, something like that. But that concept is a bit too narrow. And for us, the challenge is we hear it proclaimed in the assembly, and we see that the first reading from the Acts of the Apostles, the election of Matthias. And then we think, oh yeah, the elect, perhaps the hierarchy, the elect, the bishops, the elect, perhaps the priest on whose hands have been laid. Right? So we have some concept of that. We make it, I think, a bit too hierarchical, when the reality is that we are the elect of God. We are his chosen instrument. We are the ones, say, in whom and through whom his salvation is to be made known. So we are the elect. But what does it mean to be the elect? Does it, mean, oh, well, I'm chosen. Like I give you the badge. You can put it on your chest there. I'm chosen. Like we're special. Well, we are special. I mean, we are special in as much as we've been chosen by God. But we're chosen to live out the pattern of Jesus' own life. We're chosen to be, say, grafted onto the vine. So this little passage comes just after the vine and branches passage that Jesus gives. So it's like, remain in me, right? Just as the branches remain on the vine. And if the branches want to be fruitful at all, then they remain on the vine. We have to remain on the vine. And even the talk of vine and branches is highly symbolic of Israel as a people. Israel is the vine planted by God and made to bear fruit. I mean, intended to bear fruit. Jesus comes as Israel in the flesh in order to revitalize that very project, to go God's way, to live the life of holiness. Right? There's almost ecstatic relationship with God. I mean, it's not outside of ourselves, but it's in us. We're being drawn into relationship with God, into more profound relationship with God as we go, and as such, we're being grafted onto the vine, and we're bearing the fruit of the kingdom. And of course, Jesus is leading the way there. I've always had a bit of a difficult time with this part of the passage, where Jesus is talking about the fact that he does what the Father commands, and he's then saying that he's laying down his life for his friends. I no longer call you slaves. I call you. The slave does not know what his master is doing. I've called you friends. I've told you everything I've heard from my Father. But where is it? Right before. Where am I? I know this is where the homily gets. No, it's not where the homily gets long. This is not where we lose minutes. I know where the homily gets long. It gets long in my head. Is what he says. I can't find it. And you don't even know what I'm looking for. Yeah, okay. You are my friends if you do what I command you. Do you have a problem with that? Is that how you go about forming friendships? You know? Well, yeah, you can be my friend. Do what I command you. If you want to be my friend, do what I command you. But you see, if we hear it that way, and I've heard it that way for years, it's hard to make sense of it. And it's kind of like this. It's pretty brutal. It's too tough. It's not right. It doesn't make any sense. Well, what has it make sense is that Jesus is the revelation of God. Jesus is the revelation of the Father, such that he can say to Philip, "If you have seen me, you have seen the Father also." Right? And we talk about his works. He's talking about believing in him because of the works that are done, say, by the Father. Like really, like in this sense, the works witness to Jesus, and they give sense that he and the Father are one. We hear in the Gospel of John. Here, likewise, because what he's commanding is not like, in a sense, from him in that specific sense. What he's commanding is what God commands. What he's commanding is the enacting of God's agenda. And those drawn to him are, as he said, drawn by the Father, and are intended to have that relationship of vine and branches. So what he's giving, what he's commanding, it's not the way that we imagine that command to be, but it's real, and perhaps more real as a result. It's not from him, like it's not his ambition, right? It's not his ego project, right? It's from the Father, and so it's all in the context of love. And he's right then to come out and command us to love one another, because he's done and is doing everything that love can do. And he's simply, in this sense, when he says love one another, if we want to have his life in us, we must love one another. That's what he's saying. So he is here, Jesus is here, to give us a share in God's own blessed life. But that life is pure self-gift. God's life is pure self-gift. It's pure love. It's love. And so he's pouring himself out. He's doing all that love can do. And to receive it, right, for one, we have to be willing to be loved, and then we have to love. And there's a cycle there that kind of blurs the kind of consecutive series. Like I said, we have to be loved. Of course, that's the first move. But we have to be loved, and then we're loving, and now it's all tied together, such that we're being loved and we're loving concurrently, right, at the same time. And our love is, it's kindled and it's animated and sustained by our being loved. And our loving is simply our participation in the life of God. As we pour ourselves out, he pours himself in. He pours himself into us. We're pouring ourselves out. He's pouring himself in. Right? So that's the cycle. And so Jesus is just, he's commanding, and he has the right to command, and we ought to listen and obey as he commands. He's simply catching us up in the life of God. And this is, this is the command in that sense. It's the commandment. Like the one to get first. Because it's the shape of God's love taking effect in us. And if we don't have that, we don't have God. We have nothing. So we have to have that. This is his commandment. And we see him now, going to the cross. We see him now pouring himself out. We see him washing the disciples' feet. We see, right, he's doing it. He's making the way. We have to trust and follow him. He's making the way also for us. And we today, entrusting ourselves to him, knowing that he has made the way, and he gives us everything we need to go that way with him, we, my friends, are to commit ourselves again to the cause of love. We are again to commit ourselves to God's cause, giving him all glory, all praise, and then following where he leads, pouring ourselves out for the good of those around us.